Guys, how's it going? This is going to be a video to demonstrate we are cutting out the enclosure. We have it measured out here. We're going to be putting a metal enclosure in here today, and we're going to be using the new custom brackets that we manufacture that won't leave any sheetrock marks or anything. I can already tell I have a stud dead center because I have an outlet below, so I've laid it out. My first step I'm going to do, we laid it out. I'm going to cut two holes, two handles that will be easily covered up with an old work box in case there's an issue where we can't get this in. So two small handholes will determine if I can get the box in there or not. So we're going to do that. I'm not going to go through all those steps of showing you guys me cutting it out and all that. I have a video for that if you guys ever want it. It's about a 45-minute process. It takes you from start to finish, but this is a quick version to basically for us today to back test the brand new kits that we got. It's a custom framing kit that allows you to cut a stud out and frame it out perfectly square with zero sheetrock damage or painting or anything, and it makes it structurally integrity sound. It solids up everything, and it's a really nice kit. So this will be the first time using that. We'll see how it goes. Next step, right now I'm going to cut two handholes to just confirm that I can cut the stud out and there's no pipes or anything in my way. All right, guys, so you can see here what we did was I already laid out my mark that was going to be for this enclosure. This is our enclosure here, all right? So I already laid everything out. What we want to do is before we know we're going to put the TV here anyway, whether it's the TV or frame TV or a picture. So what we do is you lay out the mark in the box, but before you cut out the whole box, you want to do two handles. I just threw in two handles in here. They'd be easy to cover up, to spackle over, to put a box in case there was something like a gas pipe or a plumbing pipe or something in the way. Brick, you never know what you get into when you open up a wall. So I already knew I had a stud dead center here because of the outlet, but that doesn't matter. So that's what this kit is for. It allows you to cut out a stud and structurally frame it out really solid. So I made a handhole. I can see I'm clear inside except for the stud. That's not a problem. I don't have any copper pipes or nothing in there that I got to get out. So that's going to be a free shot for me to go ahead and cut the big enclosure out. So that's the next step we're going to do. I'm going to cut the sheetrock out for the recessed enclosure, and then I'll take it from there. All right, so you can see here it's going pretty good. We removed the sheetrock for the enclosure, but we have the stud here, which we already knew. We made the handholds previously, so we knew that was clear. What we did, though, is when you read on the instructions, you have to add an extra 10 millimeters or 0.4, almost just a little under a half an inch. And what that does is you add an extra half inch to your mark when you cut it out. And what that extra half inch is doing is it's going to accommodate the depth of the two T brackets that will be going here and up here. Okay, so what you do is how I do it is I just start out and make the hole for my enclosure. Once I confirm it can go in there, before I cut it out, I add that extra half inch, 0.4, half inch, 10 millimeters to the bottom. I'll show a picture of it. It looks like another, just a half inch line, and I cut that a little bit more. So what that does is it accommodates the depth of the bracket, because these are what you're going to use to solid up your frame. All right, piece of cake, but it's going good. So I'm going to lay out for cutting out the stud, and I'll get back to it and I'll show you that. All right, we're all set here. That took about 15, 20 minutes. We cut the stud out of there. We got her out. Excuse me, dogdust in her. What I like to do is when we cut this out, basically make sure the whole thing here, the key to a good install is everything level and square and straight, because once the enclosure, this is the base that your enclosure is sitting on. So you want to have everything square and level, because it just all that levelness translates to whatever you're mounting. You know, if your enclosure's not level, whatever you're mounting to, it's not going to be level. So my tip is whatever depth of the box that you need. Ours enclosure just happens to be as deep as these T brackets. And also these T brackets are a little bit thinner than the actual width of a 2x4, which makes it nice. Excuse me, sorry. because you don't always have to take out all the stud. But anyway, when you make your lines, level off of your sheetrock cut. Mark them. Mark the top level, because you got to remember, these are going to sit on there, okay? So square everything up, cut it out. I use a sheetrock saw, circular saw, to cut down as deep, as square as you can. Circular saw, if you take a piece of some tape or cardboard, you can sit the circular saw right on there. Inside, sometimes a little tricky, but you have enough room here with your enclosure usually to work at. So the next step here, I'm just going to do a dry fit without any of these in there, just to make sure that the width is right, and at the very least, the top is right. So, go in here. And it's beautiful. All right, so that's just a dry fit. We're going to actually install those T-brackets underneath that, and that's what we build our frame off of. But that's the first step. Make sure that fits. Then we're going to take that out. We'll put the T-brackets in, and then make sure it still slides in with the T-bracket. With the T-bracket are those two pieces that take up a little bit of space, so you might have to adjust a little bit, take a little off. But this is the first step. We know the width is good. We know the height is good. And we have nothing showing below. No sheetrock. That's the key. There's no sheetrock damage here. There's no paint. And we actually, our enclosures have a very small flange because we don't like them to be too tall and show over the tops of the TV. So you can see, even with the tiny flange on our stuff that we use, if you take your time and do it right, there's nothing showing anywhere. Beautiful. It's like it's been here forever. All right. So the next step will be coming in and putting the T-brackets in on the top and bottom, and then seeing if we still have that, the right height to slide that in. We might have to adjust an eighth or so. You don't want to go too big because you can't take it, you can't get it back. Little steps. So generally, if you add the 1/2 inch like I showed you, it's going to be clear. You see how much room we have up and down already? That's because we figured that into it. So we should be good, but that'll be the next step. Hey guys, good morning. We're back at it. So where we left off yesterday was we confirmed that the enclosure fit inside of the wall. We made sure that the width was okay and the height was okay. The next step is to confirm that with our T-brackets, the custom T-brackets, that one will be going up top and one will be going down on the bottom. We want to make sure, because they take up a little bit of the space, but we already accounted for that space by cutting that extra close to 1/2 inch out off the bottom on our first cut. So what you want to do is you put these in. All right, you're not going to screw them in or anything right now. You want to keep it back to the sheetrock. You want to keep it riding along that sheetrock so it's nice and square. It'll follow the same exact angles as the sheetrock. All right. So I just take a rubber mallet, hold it to the front. Beautiful. All right, so you run right along the sheetrock. It's nice and square. It's level. We're going to do the same thing for on top. I'll put that in. Let's see, we can do that right here. Same deal. Follows the sheetrock. It's right there. All right. Now we could go back and you could put some 2 screws in there if you want. It's pretty tight right here on this insulation, so I think it's gonna be fine. Let's see if this is the key right here. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect right there. Nothing showing. Our T-brackets are in. So now with the next step to do, we know that fits. We know everything is absolutely perfect. So what we're going to do next is we're going to just take this back out. I'm going to take a pen and I'm going to mark the 2 holes that are in the top of the T-bracket. There's 2 holes that are in the bottom that go on the bottom stud. We mark those. You mark both sides of them because we're going to drill them out. And we want to make sure our bit hits both sides. So we're going to drill 2 little holes for the pilot holes for the top, 2 little holes underneath that are going to be on both sides of this stud. This way, when we run a bit through, we can see that it definitely is nice and straight because you're going to have 2 bolts that go in that connect the thread real easy, and it tightens it up on this stud. So that's it. That's the next step. We'll pull that out and make our marks.
All right, here we go. We're just going to show you the two holes, two spots, locations that we're using to mark for our hole. So you're just going to do two small pilot holes right here and here. That's for the top. If you look down, see those two little marks? Those two marks are on the other side as well. There's a good mark there for you to show. We're going to drill that with a bit through, and it's the same deal up top. You got your two holes right here. It's going to just be a nice little pilot hole. And then you got two more up there that'll go through. And there's holes on the marks are on the other side as well. This way, it just gives you a nice location. So you can see inside what we have. Really basic. All right, that's it. So just showing you where the holes are that you're going to be drilling. All right, so I found if you use like a 1/4-inch pilot bit and a small hole saw, that really helps as far as keeps your hole nice and straight going through. Take a look inside. So it gives you plenty of room to find the threads when you go to run the screws through. Just a nice setup, and it's easy. So use a little hole saw. Gives you a little bit of play so you can find the threads. And then you're just going to use a tiny little pilot bit on that for the top screws. These screws are just used to kind of hold them in place. These two screws in the bottom that go through and thread through just keep everything really solid and locked up. So just use a hole saw, small hole saw. It goes through nice and easy, and the hole saw helps keep your hole straight so that the bolt will line up with the threads on the other side. All right?
All right, guys, so we're at that point where I just showed you the quick little video of the small holes we did with the hole saw and the two pilot bits for the top. So those two pilot bits are for two screws that are going to go into the top as this sits on top of the 2x4. They just kind of help keep it snug. The hole saw ones are going to be for these bolts right here that basically go right through. We made it easy for you over here. We actually put threads on this side. So you basically put that on there, slide that under. One little tip, what you want to do is run these threads on the floor, just so you know. So you run them a couple times, make sure everything's good. If you want to put a little drop of oil or WD on there, just run them. So you know you've got it, just cleans them up. All right. Do the same thing with the ones on the other one, and this way you know you're going in nice. Maybe a little drop of oil on there, so when you put it inside and you just finger tighten. It's a little tricky when it's down inside the wall, but your hand just kind of comes around. You'll feel it. That's why you use the hole saw, because by using the hole saw, it enables you to actually, feel around a little bit for the threads. Once you get a couple threads in there, then you just get your socket wrench or whatever you're going to use. A small socket sometimes helps, and you just snug them up. So once I get that in there, I'll show you the technique I use for that, and tighten them up. Make sure you got your thread. Make sure you got your two threads through. Tighten everything up. Tighten the two top ones in first. That'll bring it down to where you want to be. And then tighten the sides up. You don't have to go nuts. This is all just to snug it up. But what that does is it clamps it onto the 2x4 nicely, so that never can roll. You got to picture when the enclosure's in the wall, these two bolts right here, it's all solid with one piece, but those two bolts going through, just keep that thing from being solid. It's just nice detail on it. All right, guys. I'm just showing you a video to show you the real deal how this is done here. So all we have is we have a little bit of an extension on my drill. You can see the drill is right in there. There's plenty of room. Put your drill onto like a low torque setting so that as you turn it in and it gets a little tighter. You don't want to lock it up. So a low torque setting will let that click away as it gets tightened, and then that's it, man. It's a piece of cake. Line it up. You can see both holes in there. That's it. If you both holes are in there, both bolts are in, low torque setting, just tightens it up, snugs it up. Once you got that pretty tight, you can go back with just a handheld socket wrench to give it the rest of the tighten up. One tip is when you put the T-bracket in, put it so that the side that you're going to have the most access with your drill is where the threads would be on the other side. So if you see here, I have a little bit more room for my drill to go in here. So I put the holes, the threads are on this side. You guys know what I mean. So that's a nice little tip there. I've done it the other way a couple times, and you learn from your mistakes. So I got plenty of room. You got an 18-inch hole right here. You can see like a little extension.
And there you go.
All right, guys. So we got the T brackets in completely solid. They're nice. The 2 bolts going through, 2 pilot bit bolts on top. Next thing you want to do is we're going to cut and prep some 4 studs. These studs are going to be what frames the bottoms out. Real easy. Just take a cup. So you want to do the left side. Do the left side. You're going to just give it a rough cut. So I have 14 1/4. All right, so we're going to cut 2 of them at 14 1/4. And then we are going to do the left side here. So you take it all the way over to the wall. That looks like 14, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 14. Let's just say 14 1/2. So we're going to do 2 14 1/2. Okay. So we're going to cut 2 of those up, and we're going to mount L brackets on the end of those. So they're not going to be the final cut. So I'll show you what we're doing with those. All right. But you want to take a measurement for 2 studs on this side, 2 studs on that side. So a total of 4. So I'm going to have 14 1/4 and 14 1/2. About right. All right, guys. So for a little change of scenery here, those 4 pieces of wood I was telling you about up top that are going to be for the base bottom and the base top. It's pretty straightforward, man. I found the best way to do it. If you're an installer, this is definitely the way to do it. If you're going to be doing a bunch of them, if you're just doing one in your house, if you have the ability to have a little drill press, that's the way to go. It's perfect. You could do it with a hand drill as well, no big deal. But being that you're going to be drilling a bunch of holes, your four base plates and top plate, it's just easy if you use a drill press, if you can. If you don't have a hand drill, that's fine too. What I do is, what you're going to want to do is you take your L bracket. Your L bracket is going to sit like this, all right, underneath. The bottoms are threaded. We made them threaded so you don't have to mess around with nuts or bolts. What you can do is you take, doesn't matter really where this L bracket sits. This is the part that goes back in the wall. Therefore, these bolts don't need to be countersunk, so it's really easy. The base plate, your enclosure won't be sitting on that part. So basically what I do is I take the L bracket. You want it sitting so there's 2 holes, there's 5 holes here. And then there's a small little hole here. Those are just going to be for lag bolts that go into the side of the wall. So you're basically prepping up 4 of these right now with an L bracket. So what I do is I lay this on top of the 2x4 and I mark the holes. You just use this as your template. Use your L bracket as your template. Go through 4 of them. Mark 4 of these. I take like a 1/4 inch bit. I put it on the drill press. I use that as a pilot hole. All right, so the 1/4 inch, just go through, do all these just like that. Then I step it up. I go back, and one more time on the drill press, I use a 1/2 inch drill bit. What that does is it gives you the space in there to move it around a little bit. You know, your holes are never going to be dead on. So if you give yourself a little bit of room, the 1/2 inch works, smaller, whatever. But you could do it all on the press. It's nice and easy. All right, then you basically just take, in the kit, you got all your bolts, and you got washers. Take 4 of them, all right? Put your drill on like a low torque setting, and you just go. Start the 4 holes. Washers are in there. Okay. Beautiful. No nuts and bolts to go through. All right. That's it. You do 4 of these, all right? 4 of them, set them all up with the L brackets. These are basically going to go left side, right side top, right side top, right side bottom. All right, so the next one, I'm going to bring them up top. We're going to show you kind of how to get your final measurements for these cuts. And then we have in the kit, we've added a really nice template that you just put on onto the piece of wood. And it'll show you exactly where your holes are. We've added everything. The little plastic template that you could come back down and you'll do this all again. Because those holes are actually going to be countersunk. So you'll see where that is. But there's going to be 4 holes that go into your T bracket that's here. But those are going to be countersunk because you picture this is where your enclosure's sitting. All right, so this is how we do it. Like I said, if you just have a normal 1 drill, you could set it up on a porch or a step and you could do all your holes. It's a lot. If you have a drill press, a cheap drill press, it just makes it nice straight holes, little platform to work on. All right, that's just my tip. This is setting up for all the L brackets. So I'm going to go and set these up, and then I'll show you the location and show you the next step. All right, guys, here we are. We're back up here with all those prefabbed L brackets. I'll show you what to do next. So what you want to do is you're going to, like I said, you're going to have 4 locations. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now remember, this piece is going to sit on top of your T bracket. So the idea here is to push this over to the wall, to the stud that's on the other side, and give yourself a pretty accurate mark. Have like a sharp pencil. You want the mark to be a little bit heavy because the idea is you're going to put this into the wall and you're going to tap it down gently. If the measurement is heavy a little bit, this will stay in a little bit nicer while you make your marks. If it's real loose, you know, you got an 1/8 inch or a 1/4 inch of play, you know, it's going to be falling down. So what you do is just bring it over, all right, put it in the wall. This piece right here is going to be the bottom left piece, all right? Like I said, you want to, when this is going to be your bottom foundation, so you're going to want access to these holes. When you go up on the top, it's going to be the same thing, but you're just going to flip this over this way because you're figuring this is going to be framed out. You're not going to see up inside of this, and you're not going to see down in this. This is actually making your enclosure hole. So the bottom, you're going to put it up like this. On the top, you'll put it up like that because you'll have access to these holes. So I'm going to put it into the wall. All right, I'm hitting that wall right already. All right, and I want it to sit right in the frame of my T bracket. So I'm going to make a mark right exactly where that is, okay? So the T bracket comes down on both sides. You're just keeping, this is going right up against the wall. Once again, piece of cake. Up against the wall, sitting on top of your T bracket right there. I'm making a mark where I'm going to want to cut that. And I'll probably, when I cut this, I'm probably going to cut it on a table saw. You could cut it with a circular saw, whatever. Just square your lines because you want that to be pretty square. You want everything square. As I was saying before. I am going to leave the line. Like when I cut it, I won't cut the line. I'll leave the line. And then this way, that leaves my mark a little heavy. So when I tap this in, we're basically going to put this down in. I'm going to tap, 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 tap. Now picture this. This piece is now sitting below that sheetrock. That's the key here. So this gives you that foundation without having to cut all of this sheetrock out and then repatching it. Basically, if you didn't do it, if you were to cut this, you could put a full piece in here and cut all the way across. Not a big deal. People were doing it for a while, but if you have a situation where you don't want to see that 2x4, you don't want to have to go back and spackle, you got to figure, if you do that all the way across and on the top, you're now adding 2 more inches of space that has to be covered up by an enclosure. That's why some companies build an enclosure with a really big flange on it, because that's how they figure you're going to. So if they make a flange that's, 1.5 inches high on the top and the bottom, it'll cover that 2x4, but it'll also show above your TV and the smaller TVs as well, like the 50 inches. So that's not what we want. We don't want to see anything. So that's why I came up with this process. It hides all this behind it. The T bracket basically resets it down behind there, and it's structurally sound because it's bolted together with ridiculously strong L brackets and T brackets. All right, so you're going to do the same thing for the top. One of the key, mark this one as your bottom left, BL. This way, when I cut it, I know that bottom left, this one comes in. This one will be top left. This one will be bottom right, and then top right. All right, so I'm going to go make all those measurements, cut that, and then I'll show you. I'll show you a little trick to get them all in at level. We're basically going to level off of this, a little bubble level when we put that in, so that we know everything is true and square. All right, here we go again. So we basically we got all our L brackets pieces made up. Remember I was saying to write bottom left, top left, all that on there. So this is for that reason. So one trick I found, when you come up to put this in after you've made your cut. Now I made it on a square off this line, and I did it on a table saw. I know it's square, it fits in nice. So if you can, make everything square. I put a little lag bolt in here. Just drill a little pilot hole, 1/4 inch in, put a lag bolt in. That's not going to stay there, but what it does is when you tap this in to make sure all your fittings are correct, make sure it's the right side. Sometimes it's a little tight. You wanted that little tightness there because when you tap it in, If you have to bring it out for whatever reason, gives you a little handhold or something you can put channel locks on and pump it out. But you want to leave those marks a little heavy because that's exactly what you want. So it's going to be the same process for this whole thing. I'll just show you basically what's going on here. Take your rubber hammer, put it in. You see that fits really nice. So basically all you would do, tap this side down. You want to hold it back to the sheetrock. You want this thing flush on the sheetrock. So that's just going in. By leaving it a little bit heavy, everything sets itself. So if this were to get kind of stuck, or if you're tapping that too hard, you could take this lag bolt and pull it up, and it gives you that room. But everything looks good here. What I do is so let me just tap it the rest of the way down to shove it. This is going to come out again because we have to make 4 countersunk holes on the other sides of all these. So as long as you know that it's fitting in there and your measurements are right, you don't have to tap it all the way in because you're going to pull it out anyway. Once you put this up here, you'll know if you left that thing too heavy or too light. Here's a tip. If you did cut it a little light and it's not staying in there snug, in the kit there's a small package of 4 little dry sheetrock wood screws. What you could do is you could tap that in, all right, and you take that little screw, and on that 5th small hole that's right here, we added that in. So if your measurement is a little light and this doesn't want to, wants to fall down in there a little bit, you can level this out, hold it. You could take that Phillips head screw and screw it to the stud on the other side, and it'll hold that in place so that you can then mark your 4 holes for the lag bolts. The lag bolt's just a wood bolt that's going to go in. So if you cut it a little heavy, like I was saying, it'll stay in there just like that, you see. So that's good. But that's what this little hole here is for. If it is light, it happens. Sometimes you cut too much into your mark or something, and then you're off. So you can use those little wood screws just to hold that level and then mark your 2 holes. And then you can even, once that's in there, once you know everything fits, you can then take our template. Okay, this is the nice thing. We've added this template in here. All right, so use this template. We know this piece fits already. So what you want to do is that your T bracket is sitting up against the sheetrock right here. All right, take that template, put it just where that exactly to the end of your 2x4. You just square it off. All right. It's favoring the wall a little bit. You'll see that once this 2x4 is sitting on your base plate of this T bracket. All right. The other side, the L, that didn't matter. You could drill those pilot holes anywhere. But remember, we set this T bracket to sit right on this sheetrock so that would keep it square and level. All right. So you take this template that we've given you, and you could just mark that. All right. You can mark the holes. Once you know that this piece, you're going to take this out. You can mark it in another spot, but you're going to take this back out and you're going to drill some holes. You're going to countersink 4 holes. Those are going to be because they need to be flush. All right. But that's the whole idea. Once you know that this fits, I'm going to temporarily pre-fit all the other 3 just to make sure that my measurements are right and they're a little heavy. Once I know that it fits and I didn't mess anything up, those 4 are going to go back. I'm going to take this template, put it right on the corner as if it were just sitting on that T bracket. This isn't going to be centered to that piece of 2x4. This matches exactly the whole pattern of the T bracket. So your T bracket is just like this 2x4 now. It's hugging this sheetrock. So therefore, you would make that template right there as well, like it's hugging the sheetrock. Same thing on the other side. On the other side, it's going to be hugging your bottom right side, basically just as if it were sitting right up against the wall. All right. So same deal there. We'll countersunk first with 1/4-inch holes, counter it with a hole saw. Then what we'll do is we can pop that little slug out, and then I take like a 1/2 inch. I'll take a 1/2 inch drill bit and run it through that 1/4-inch hole. And that way it gives you that room so that you're not struggling or off a 16th or something. So the tip is use your template that we give you right in there. You can't mess it up. Puts right on the corner there. Put the template like you would be holding right up against the sheetrock. Then you're going to take the 1/4-inch hole saw, top out, a little slug because you're going to want the head of that lag bolt, the bolt that we put in, to sit flush into here, because this is where your enclosure sits. So you'll run the 1/4-inch hole saw through there first, just a 1/4 inch or so. You can pop the slug out, and then take a 1/2-inch drill bit, send that through where your pilot hole went through, and that'll give you the room, a little bit of room to play. All right, so we're going to do this one, and then I'm going to go prep them up, and then show you the next step. All right, guys, so as you can see here, we prepped up all our countersunk holes. Got them all set up. You can see it's countersunk, so we went through and set them all up. So the next step was we come over. I put the first piece we started with was the bottom left piece. So that's in already. I tapped it in. I'm just going to show you the technique. So we got it sitting on the T-bracket. All right, set this to a low torque setting once again. Finger tight, put the 4 bolts in. I'll just show you the process, why it's so easy. Beautiful. All right, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your little bubble level. I don't have it on me right there. You're going to level off of this. You want to keep that as level. It has to be just perfectly level. It's easy to do. So remember, I put the lag. So you tighten up those 4 bolts. Put the little lag bolt in there in the top. You can use that to pull up or push down depending on which way that needs to go. So if you tighten that up, you can take some channel locks, squeegee it up. In the true sense in the true nature of construction jobs, remember I was saying that we didn't have to countersink these L brackets, these ones, because they were behind the wall. Well, behind here, they're behind the wall. So that one got past me. These two actually are inside of my enclosure. So no big deal, just showing you like what comes when you're doing a construction job. So once I get all this leveled out, I'm going to tighten up my 4 bolts here. I'm going to level this out off of that T so you have a perfectly level base there. I'm going to take in the kit, like I was telling you, there are these 4 little wood screws. All right. Once this is level, I'm just going to take my drill and I'm going to put these little Phillips head screws will go right into that center little hole. And what that's going to do is that's going to lock that in level for me. Just really nice, easy little wood screw. Just keeps it snug. Then I can go and I can pilot these holes, and then I can put my lag bolts in there. So you're going to have 4 lag bolts on the side there. So once I get everything level, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to take out these 2 little bolts on this right here because I got to countersink. So I'll just unscrew that, put my little hole saw on there, and I can just make a little countersunk. I don't even have to take it all out. But that's the point. It's really easy. Every job is going to be different. You're going to run into different things. These are really like you can fabricate them. They'll fit pretty much anything that you run into. So that's what I'm going to do right now. We're going to go. We're going to tighten up this. I'm going to level this off of the T-bracket. All right. Move it around a little bit. Use that little lag screw that I was telling you about. Put that in there because I can hold that and I can pull it up a tiny little bit to get perfectly bubbled. Once I'm perfectly bubbled, I'm going to put my hand in that wall. I'm going to put this little drywall screw in there to hold that tight. And then I'll put my 4 lag bolts in, snug everything up. And there's your start of the foundation of perfectly square, strong as heck. And then it'll be the same for the rest. So that's where we're going to go with this. All right, guys, this is it. The foundation, the top and the bottom foundation is done. Left side, right side, everything's all set up here. It's super, super structurally strong. It will hold any TV you put up here, especially if you're using, a drop-down TV that's hanging out lower. You want that to be structurally sound. So next video I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you the inside of this and what it looks like all done. It's a little bit of work, but it's solid, super strong. The kit has every single thing you need in there. This is the first kit. So everything worked out really, really good. All the parts were in there. Instructions are in there. Had every part that you need. Templates line up. I'm going to put 2 more side pieces in. this is the structural side, the top and the bottom, where you can secure your enclosure. You can secure it on the side as well. There's nothing wrong with securing it on the side as well as the top and the bottom. So the next video I do, I'm just going to show you the inside of this and how it turned out, what it looks like, and how like top notch everything looks really, really sturdy. Then I'll put the side pieces in, and then we'll just finish it up by putting the enclosure in and showing that we did get it level with no sheetrock damage or no paint. People have asked me sometimes when, a lot of times what happens is they'll buy an enclosure or a bracket because they say, oh, it's 14.5 on center, so it fits right in the center of your wall. Well, I've been an electrician for 30 some odd years, and the chances of, if you're doing an old work installation or a new work old work installation where the customer wants to put a TV somewhere, I can pretty much guarantee you that there's going to be a stud there, whether it's 14.5 or not. If the builder is working hand in hand with the homeowner over a fireplace, maybe they'll frame it out to the 16 center. Maybe in that case, a 14.5-inch wide bracket would work. But if you're working with the builder anyway, just decide what kind of bracket you'd like and plan it for that, whether it's 18 or 14.5 inches. But if you're adding this in to a pre-existing job that's already sheetrock painted, which is why we developed these brackets, you're gonna hit a stud. You might get very lucky. Sometimes people say, well, I had it framed out for 16-inch center studs, dead center. What happens if I hit 2 studs there? Not a big deal. Same exact setup. You would just do an extra 2 T brackets. That's it. Same exact setup, but you would have another set of 2 T brackets right here, and you would just frame out. The 2 studs that you end up removing for that, you end up putting them back in for support, like we're going to do right here. We're going to put this side bracket in, and we're going to just put the side stud in and the side stud here. Basically just takes the place of like the little part you took out right there. Do you need it? Sometimes no, sometimes yes. I always just put them in anyway. It frames it out nice. So there is, just because you have 14.5 center or a box that you got because you want to sit in between the wall, 16 centers, the space between them is 14.5. If it's a job like this where you're just coming out and trying to center something up, it's probably not going to end up working out. You're going to hit a stud. So this kit allows for 100% of all the parts you would need to make a structurally sound, level, nice frame out enclosure. That's not toenailed and, so that is pretty, you can fabricate it and do different things with it. Every install is going to be different. So the next video I'm just going to do real quick is going to show you the inside of it and see what it looks like, and you can really tell how it all comes together.
All right, so like I said, we're going to show you the inside and show you how this turns out and what it looks like. So here's your bottom T bracket that you put in. As you go down, you can see where everything is countersunked. The hole saw, I used a little bit bigger hole saw. You don't obviously need that, but that's what we had. There's where it secures to your other wall with the L bracket. And you go up, you can see the top part. See how everything is countersunk? Just everything you need for a complete system. There you go. Right there. Side. Everything is framed out. It's so structurally sound. All right. What I was talking about before was we ended up having to countersink these because if you look, those end up being inside of our enclosure. Sometimes they might be over that way more or not, like this one, it's not in that way. So every install is different. So as you can see, there's a solution to everything. All right. That's the kit right there. As you can see, there will be no sheetrock paint or spackle. I'll show you once you add the enclosure in.
All right, guys. So we're kind of like right at the final touch of this project here. I put side pieces in. So what I'd like to do is, in order to find out exactly where that 2x4 side parts are going to be, I'll square everything off. So I square it to the actual enclosure. So by putting that in there, if I make a line square, do the same thing. Square it up top. As you do this side as well, make your 4 square lines off of the corners. That will show you where the 2x4 has to be behind. So I just drill 2 toenails in there, 2 toenails there and up on top. You got your line in there where you want to be, tap it in. So that's kind of like my technique there, what I do. There's a million other ways to do it, I get it. But that shows me my line because I don't want to end up screwing it in and it's into my enclosure space. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put these in, and then that's it. We'll wrap it up. All right, guys, here's the final install. I installed the side pieces there just to frame it out nice and proper. You can see how everything went. Those are just toenailed in on the sides. The structure can be, the heavy structure can be mounted down through all this stuff that we did on the top and the bottom. The sides are just as strong as well, you know, but the meat of the enclosure should be secured down into the bottom here. All right, but this just makes it a nice frame out. You can see the setups. All right, guys, right before this, I just showed you a little video of these installed, the side pieces installed here now. All right, so everything is in. It's completely framed out. This is the end of it. So we're just gonna put the enclosure in. See the fruits of our labor, and it's beautiful. All right. So any enclosure should have a bunch of different mounting holes. Our enclosures have we use concentric knockouts that you can use. There's actually going to be 2 on each side, the tops and the bottoms of the concentric. So depending on the depth of the sheetrock, say you had 3/4 sheetrock like this is, so that pushes your box out a little bit more. So you might want to set your set screw, your lag bolt into the wood a little bit farther back, because you got to think if your sheetrock is deeper, you know, you're not going to be into the center of the stud, so you'd want to be back farther. So what we've done on our enclosures is for the installer and homeowner, we give you a bunch of options that you can easily knock out as opposed to having to drill it all out. We give you plenty of for your room for your cables. These we have on the bottom and at the back. They're wide enough in case you got to get some of the wider HDMI cable connectors through for, you know, or some of the other TVs have a little bit wider plug. So, you know, and anything is customizable too. The installer can make any holes he wants. But that's pretty much, that's it. This enclosure is small enough that it doesn't reach over the tops of the smaller TVs, which is nice. So when you secure this all up, all right, so you got to remember, we have T-brackets in here that we use. You might, depending on how it worked out, maybe one of the corner bolts, the lag screw down into the bottom, maybe it's sitting on top of that L bracket you had there. Personally, usually you could just move it over. Being that we have concentric knockouts, you won't see another hole. I would just place another hole somewhere else close. Or if the install required you to just use where our knockout is, we supply you with 4 self-tapping metal screws. And what you would do is you would just, if you ended up having to put one of your lag bolts in a lag bolt for the wood into a spot maybe where that L bracket underneath is there, and you didn't want to move it over a little bit and drill a new hole where you would clear that L bracket, what I would do is we give you the self-tappers, mark your hole where it is. If it's down here, it's going to be up there as well on that side. And mark it, take your box out, do a self-tapper through like a 1/4 inch pilot bit, and then you could run your metal self-tapper through. Or you could just move it over. It all depends, but we give you the option to do whatever. And there's nothing wrong with doing extra holes in the side. We give you the concentric knockout. All you got to do is take the screwdriver and tap it out. But that's it. So that is an install to show you that it can be done structurally sound with the stud right in the way. Our flange is even super small, thin, so that you don't see over the TV when it's back there. And as you can see, it's beautiful. All right. So to final note, we give you those self-tappers in case you want to use them. If your mounting spot is over that L bracket. Other than that, that's it. That's the kit. This was actually the first install with that kit, so every single piece was used and everything worked out and lined up.